You want to learn how to sell using the healthcare supply chain talk? Well, we got one coming up for you today. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Manage the healthcare supply chain. You see a lot of talk about it online. Been around for years. We got the creator of it coming up. But today's show, Milliman study just reported, came out with basically the four components of the healthcare supply chain. What it looks like for 2021, how to use it, how to sell it, how to use its talking points in the meetings. We're not just going to sit and go over the report. We're going to teach you how to utilize it for selling. That being said, today's show sponsor, Virtue Alliance. Go ahead and check us out. virtuealliance.com. Got a webinar coming up July 6th, 12 p.m. Going to go over the program, some of the new features. Check it out on the site. Get registered. I think we got about 200 people already signed up, so we're excited about that. What else we got for you? High Stakes Advising. Those that haven't signed up, check it out. Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, will be speaking August 9th and 10th. Going to be a good time. Don't want to miss it. We're excited. Love to have you there. That being said, let's bring him in. Craig Lack.
Hola. Hey man, you got a cool hat. Tell us about what's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, became a fan here out in Vegas. The Golden Knights hockey team. They're in semifinals cup. Been going watching the games after work, relaxing, having an iced tea, watch the games, and I actually won 2 shirts so far as raffles. So got a hat, won some shirts, but yeah, good stuff in Vegas here.
Nice.
What do you got going on there?
Nice. Hockey in the desert. How hot was it today, brother?
122 degrees today.
Oh man.
We're in the desert. It's funny, you get a breeze out here. It's crazy. I never felt, you talk about a breeze, you think in your mind a cool breeze or breeze. No, this is a breeze of 120 degree weather. It's not a cool breeze. It's like the fire, the temperature coming off the flames of a fire when it blows a fire wind. That's what it feels like outside. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, what's up? We'll say hello to some of the guys in the crowd here. If you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, go ahead and type below where you're watching from. Let us know. Craig.
Yeah, join in. Pop in, man. Don't be shy. Personally, the only thing I like cold is a little goose on ice.
Goose on ice. So shout out to some of the newer guys making it into the Hunters Clubs. Going to get some awards going out. Joining the group every Friday. We meet for a Hunters Club call talking about sales and marketing. Shout out to you that are joining with us. Craig.
Out.
Let's talk about it. We'll go back 4 years when you did your event in La Jolla, California.
Yeah.
You introduced the healthcare supply chain to people. What it was.
Yeah. Our old pal Nelson
how to use it to sell.
But could you explain it in more detail how you could talk about, the way you talk about what you talk about? And so I whipped out the Milliman model and explained how to use that as a weapon. And I guess that became pretty popular when he started marketing that all over town. So that's cool. And the point of the show is to say, hey, data becomes information. And if you're lucky, that becomes knowledge, and then you have to convert it into wisdom. So what the hell does that mean? It means that, all these reports are just numbers on a page, right? They don't necessarily mean anything to your client, or worse, to a prospect. You have to spoon feed them. You have to connect the dots for them about how one leads to the other. And so the report has some really cool charts, some really disturbing numbers. In order for you to have a conversation, the only meaningful conversation you can have with a prospect, it's never about your features and benefits of this yada yada or that blah blah blah. It's about the emotions that they feel, that they experience. And if you can't extract that from the prospect, you're probably not going to get them to want to change, because change is an incredible force and it takes an enormous amount of energy or emotion if you can elicit it to make them want to change. And so the more you talk to them and you elicit this emotion, they'll convince themselves that they have to have what it is you do. And therein lies your success. Right?
Yeah. So I want to do today's show and kind of spit fire here for Craig, because this is probably his best, where he's best is when I just ask him questions as if we're in the prospect meeting and he just goes. And so what he's saying here with this report is, guys, is, if I look at the report, right, they say the average person is now spending $6,500 per employee per year is going to be the cost for 2021. A family of four, 28,000. Now that sounds crazy, right? But great, you said it, it's over. They're on to the next thing. It's a number. It's not a story, right? It's not something that they're going to remember. So how do you convey these messages in this report into your sales and convey pain, right? Because what do we want to do? We want to ride the pain train. And boy, is there a lot of pain with the new report, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But Craig, let's go 101. A lot of people have heard people talk about the healthcare supply chain online. Give me what it is, an overview of it, just 101, and how to kind of start to spin it.
We could go through this page by page. Those numbers you mentioned, the 6,000 and change, the 28,000 and change. Imagine how good the prospect feels when they say, "Oh, well, we're not that high." Right? Our out of pocket's only 4,000. We charge $100 a month. That's 1,200 a year. 4,000 plus 12 is 5,200. So, gosh, we're like 20% below the average. Aren't we doing great? And then 28,000 we charge, whatever it is, 18,000 for premium, and then the out of pocket, and you add it up, and we're at 20 something lower. And so now you set the trap. You say, yeah, it's really good when you compare yourself to averages, but there's a lot of information we don't know about that. What industry are they in? What were the plan designs of those programs? What were the premium contribution? What were the ages? Did they have 3 generations in the workforce or 5? Right? What kind of pre-existing conditions that you don't know anything, right? So the data is pretty hard to compare, actually. But just innocuously, those numbers.
I mean, we're using these benchmarks. It's good when it's in your favor. We're going to go to a pain train example in a minute on what I think is one of the best things on this report is what's expected for 2021 to be. That's how you pain train scare them. But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no problem. So you go, so what percentage of your workforce is hourly? Oh, okay. 85%, so 15% salaried. Yeah. What's the average wage? I mean, not an exact number, but if you had to give me an average, is it $20 an hour? Is it $40 an hour? Oh, $20 an hour. Okay. So 40 grand. Is that a reasonable number in your mind? Okay. So 85% of your workforce earns an average of $40,000 a year. And between their out-of-pocket maximum, $4,000, imagine when it's higher, but $4,000 in my example, and $100 a month premium to be an employee is $1,200, $5,200. You divide that into 40,000, and what are you talking about? 13% of the gross wages represents the out-of-pocket maximum and premium contributions for your 85% of your workforce, if they're someone who consumes a lot of healthcare. Now, does anybody take home their gross wages? No, I know. Yeah. No, of course, we all have to pay state and federal income tax. So if you take away, 20% of the 40, and now it's 32,000. So now $5,200 in out-of-pocket max and premium contributions relative to 32,000. Holy cow. That's kind of what our industry calls, you can do a Google search on it, underinsured. You have insurance, but unfortunately for the average working ordinary employee, they have to go, through the sad experience of not being able to afford to use it. And so now you're having a conversation about, have you had any employee, what kind of experience do you have? You have employees taking 401k withdrawals. Did you know the number one reason for a 401k withdrawal is to pay an unexpected medical expense? I know, it's really sad. Anybody asking you for payday loans, advances on pay, et cetera, changing their deductions, on and on and on. And so now we're trying to elicit, what are the feelings like? How is it frustrating to you when an employee comes to you and you realize, oh my gosh, they can't even afford to use our plan? And I mean, we try to do the best that we can. I mean, we're better than our peer benchmarks. And then, so you try to make it real for them. And with the families, it's only worse. And so you can really tie them down with just establishing what's the impact of your max out of pocket and your premium contributions, knowing that, 20 to 30% of the workforce incurs 80 to 93% of the claims per Willis Towers Watson. You can look it up. Or any number you want, 4 to 6%, 50 to 65%, 1% of the claimants incur 20 to 30% of the claims, maybe even higher nowadays. And so those people it's blatantly unfair for those people who consume the majority of the costs because of these stats. And so if you can get to that point with the person you're talking to, you're going to have a meaningful conversation about, I know it's really easy to get caught up in the, features and benefits of medical insurance and, this new solution. I mean, you've been doing this, you told me 18 years. I mean, for 18 years, have you ever had somebody in my position walk in the door and not have something new to sell you? I mean, it never stops. And how's that working so far? Haven't you had a rate increase nearly every year for 18 years? Yeah, I know. It's not your fault.
Healthcare supply chain. Let's just break it down for them, those that don't know. Let's see if I could bring up. Let's see here if I can bring this up.
Thing open.
Okay. So, yeah, what you see here is the 4 components of the supply chain. Essentially, it's inpatient, outpatient, physicians, and pharmacy. And so this is just showing you the trend on each different sector. Obviously, pharmacy just keeps cranking. It didn't go down last year. It went up 7.2%. They're getting their margin. It's the fastest rising one, the biggest threat really to the healthcare plan. So it shows a differential overall on the percentage increases. I love to see this when people, with Virtue Health, they ask, well, when is my renewal going to be zero? Well, your renewal will be zero when the cost to insure a claim doesn't change the next year.
Yeah, when hell freezes.
For those of you that don't know, these claims go up. You see, inpatient cost is going up 10%. That means, let's do the math, $100,000 claim this year. You got a $50K spec, insurance company stop loss pays $50K. 10% increase next year. That claim to insure the claim is $110,000 next year. Still have a $50K spec. Okay, now we're talking about leverage trend. So the insurance company is now going to pay $60,000. What's the increase?
20%.
20%. 20% goes to 60. It's 20%. So the cost to insure the claim for the insurance company is 20%. So it needs to go up 20% to cover the same claim. Okay, because the cost to insure a claim goes up every year, right?
That is such a great example.
Forget about your, your claims are running bad, or we had a large claim, or we had a bad year. No. I don't care if you have the same claims next year as you had the year before. It's going to go up because the cost to insure that claim, if you have it, is going to cost them 20% more because of what. Now that's called leverage trend. But again, guys, this is a good example to go through your renewal. Look, you might want to use this renewal on your renewal exhibit and go, look, here's the Miller report. Here's what the state of the union looks like before you deliver an increase or what have you. It's like, look, this is what the cost of care and claims are going up. You have a business. You see the crazy inflation right now. You have to get more margin every year. You're not going to upcharge your clients because keep up with inflation. Well, this is what the inflation on medical services are, hence medical premiums going up. So now you're educating them on why, and you're setting the stage for the increase that you're going to deliver, whether it be 5 or 10 or 20. Look, we're all going to have to deliver increases. It's just the nature of the business, right?
Yeah.
And so this could be a conversation strictly around for renewals to help them understand it. Okay.
But stay tuned for our show next week. Winter is coming. Next week's show, winter is coming, right? So John just touched on it. It's such a great example. Look, guys, just this week, one of the first ones in the marketplace. I think it was PwC came out with their trend forecast for 22. 6.5 or 6.8% is what they expect the rate increase to be. Somebody just came out either today or yesterday, and they said pharmacy was going to be at least 8 for the pharmacy component. Well, that's 22 to 33%, depending on your group. But so keep that in mind. So if the claim amount's going up on average, remember, average means some of them are higher, some are lower. But if it's 6.5 to 8, then you can expect carrier increases of 14 to 20% next year. Hello. You better be prepared to market your ass off.
There you go. Those that don't have the reports, we have the PwC and we have the Milliman one. I'm going to email out PwC next week. We got those reports on virtualliance.com over by the resource section for your easy, quick download. Correct. So we're talking about healthcare supply chain here for a minute, right? And so,
yeah,
how do we sell it? How do we get them from a sales conversation? This was great. I remember when I was in retail and I used to use it. And so, how do I get them talking about their supply chain and segue it over? So, give me chat. We're going to a trucking company. I meet with a trucking company. This is where I first used it. Tell me the conversation.
Yeah. So you can use the Milliman slide and break out the fact that let's take apart, if you look at $1 of revenue in your trucking company, I bet in 10 seconds you can break it down for me. You know your numbers, don't you? Right? Overhead, labor, fuel, truck maintenance, blah, blah, blah. Right? I'm going to ask you for that in a minute. But in the meantime, let's look at what's going on in healthcare inside your plan. Right? Now, whether or not we have their data, it doesn't matter. This is what the largest actuarial firm in the United States says are the facts based on, look at the data, I don't know, 170 million lives, 160 million lives, whatever their data is based on, it's a crap ton. Okay. So you look at it and you go, okay, so inpatient hospitalizations on average are about 30% of the claims. Outpatient and ambulatory surgical centers, about 20% of the claims. Those could flip flop based on any particular year, but it's about half of all your claims are inpatient or outpatient surgeries, hospitalizations. And then you get anywhere from, around 20% for office visits and those types of treatments. And then you got a big chunk, 25%. Now, Milliman's down around 20. Frankly, most of my clients are 25 to 30. So call it 25% of your claims are pharmacy. Now, the challenge that you have is, so you look at your claims, that should be a pool of money. You look at your fixed expenses, that's a pool of money. When you look at the financial impact that you can have on your healthcare budget, there's no greater impact than trying to control the inpatient, the outpatient, and the pharmacy claims. And so that's where your focus should be, as opposed to focusing on, per se, the administration costs, because that is a small fraction. And that's another talk. And so you talk about, so you're running a trucking business. Do you know the price of fuel before you buy it? Sure you do. Do you know the price of the truck? Of course. Do you know how much you're going to have to pay in labor costs? Of course. So what's your line items look like? Right? You got revenue, payroll, fuel, health insurance. Maybe IT, because you got all this fancy stuff. You can track how many times the driver shifts and the speed they drive and all that stuff that costs money. And beyond that, it's de minimis. Okay. So healthcare is number 3 for a trucking company. And so you go, so isn't it fascinating that, the way you manage and run your core business has nothing in common with the way you run your health insurance business? Because you're self-insured. You are, in fact, an insurance company. You pay the claims out of the profits of the company. And so for easily inpatient, outpatient pharmacy, you don't know the cost of 75 to 80% of the dollars that you invest out of the profits of your trucking company. How does that make you feel? And so, you have easy conversations to strike a balance with the business owner or the business person you're talking to, that you understand their business and their frustrations. And now you're giving them a different perspective on healthcare, probably.
Yeah, I like the one you gave me one time. It was, talk to me about your supply chain right now. You're in trucking, fuel, tires. Who's sticking it to you right now in the supply chain? oh, gas fuel prices going through the roof. It's killing me. So what do you do to combat that right now? Are you, shopping out, finding different prices? What are you doing to combat that fuel? You're reserving fuel when the prices get lower. All these different things to save, maybe dollars or pennies on the dollar, right? And so it's interesting. You're managing a supply chain for your trucking. Our business is very similar to that. We have a supply chain as well. We actually call it the healthcare supply chain, and it's broken down into 4 components: physician, RX, inpatient, outpatient. And your ability to manage the frequency and severity of claims in these 4 buckets allows us to reduce your healthcare costs and increase company profits. And so it's this easy segue from talking about their supply chain, their pain, into yours to get them to understand, right? This report is bullshit if you don't know how to use it. Yeah, it's great numbers, but how do we sell it? How do we convey that message into their world, into what they care about, and make
That's all
them
that matters.
understand it and be able to leave the meeting and remember it with a story, right? So they're not going to remember the number, right? Jess Toddfeld, shout out to him, one of our speaking coaches. He opens his talks when he does training, and he tests them at the end, and nobody remembers the numbers from the slides. Maybe 40% of the people do, but everybody remembers every aspect of the story, of the color of the hat the guy was wearing, the person's name that did this. And so what people remember is story. So if you can bring it into context, make it fun, make it, storylines, don't go crazy with them, right?
Yeah.
Because I've heard people go crazy about personal stories. Slow down. Make it short, sweet, and very easy to understand. And the more we can simplify this, the more sales you're going to make. Because listen, it's complex stuff. Last night, somebody was asking me what I did, and yeah, they were half in a bag a little bit, but I was like, and they're like, well, it sounds, at the end, they're like, sounds easy. So I go, it is, but you see how much trouble you had in the beginning understanding how simple it was. That's what I deal with on a daily basis. They don't get it. It's not in their world. It's not in their wheelhouse. We think it's easy because we know it, but it's not. And so how do we segue use this report for data and information? Don't go in there and put this on a spreadsheet and go on the data show this and being an actuary pinhead. Sell it. You're a salesperson. We say, correct?
Yeah, sell the story. Sell the story. It's like when you're a trucking company or anybody, it's like, well, who do you pay to negotiate with your supply chain vendors? The steel, the rubber, the lumber, whatever it is. If they're a manufacturing company, they have somebody. Oh, shoot, it's the owner, right? The owner in a trucking industry. I recently had a trucking guru consultant tell me, oh, the owner's the number 1 salesperson in most trucking companies. I was shocked. Really? I said, so they're responsible for giving away all the margin. And he laughed. And so, whoever that person is, it's like, so let's just look at your non-core business function, your health insurance company. Who's running that? Oh, you're not involved? Finance, CFO's not involved? Controller's not involved? Oh, human resources involved. Okay, so who do you pay to manage your healthcare budget? The 3rd largest operating item that you told me are your costs. Well, we have a broker. So any idea how much you pay them to give you advice to negotiate with your healthcare supply chain? Of course, you already know the answers, right? They're not negotiating anything. Because why? Right? They don't know how. They actually work for the carrier. Whatever the reason is. And so it gives you an opportunity to create a wedge, to create some doubt, to create a conversation where what if you could do this? And so what's the consequence of not being able to negotiate with the healthcare supply chain? How much of your rate increase has been the last 3 years? Boom, dollar amount. What's that represent in new truck sales? Ooh, that's like 4 new full-time employees. How much more revenue could you generate if you had 4 new full-time employees? Well, knowing what you know now, how long are you willing to put up with that? Not being able to have those 4 full-time equivalent employees and not being able to have the revenue, or to continue to lose this many tens or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in profit annually. And so you create the storyline to get them to want to convince themselves that I never thought about it like that. And that's a very common response you're going to get. Nobody's ever really relayed to me how healthcare worked, and I never understood that it worked that way. And so therein lies your opportunity to paint them a picture to say, you want to be here, but you want to be here, but you're down here. And so that gap is not going to get filled on its own. The results that you're getting are the results that you're going to continue to get because they're a reflection of the capabilities, the time, temperament, and talent of the people you pay to manage healthcare. Whether that's your HR and or your broker consultant remains to be determined, but you're not going to get any new advice unless you get some new advice, and that'll get you new results. And so this is the kind of outcomes we can produce. This equivalent new sales for your company, or 4 full-time equivalent new positions. And if you're really good at what you do, you put your money where your mouth is and go, look, we'll back it up with this, savings performance guarantee, whatever it is, and then that's a whole different conversation about how to spin your fee or your comp.
I love you guys. I'm just gonna say something. Don't take this report and start posting numbers online and going, Mr. Employer, you're gonna expect it. The average cost is this, and it's going to this, and we can help you save money. There's no context behind it. There's no story behind it. That doesn't sell. It looks like a sales pitch online. That doesn't work. Okay, we think it does, right? We tell ourselves it does, but it just looks bad. You look like a salesperson that's desperate, bragging, giving secrets away, and I can save you money. You're a Geico commercial, essentially. And so don't go out there and take all this info and then just say, I can save you money, give me a call. Employers aren't calling you. Okay. It's like the hot chick at the bar, right? She's got 20 guys calling her on a regular basis. You think she's just outright calling a guy, right? Because she saw a post on LinkedIn that said I can lift more weights than the other guy. No. Got 20 guys they're talking to, and she's married. That's the employers. So, posting that stuff, numbers, no. You want to educate, like we're doing now, educate them, demonstrate your expertise. And so maybe you want to make a video of helping an employer understand the healthcare supply chain, how to manage the healthcare supply chain.
You don't even need to spin it that way, because people have probably just abused that in 4 years. So, take a different angle, like what you don't know can hurt you. And then you talk about it and then you spin it. Okay. But don't use the same words that everybody else does. You only reinforce that everybody's a commodity, and that'll trap you.
Yeah, I mean, sell the pain, guys. Right? What can you get out of this report?
Sell a story.
Some sales tactics and pain. Right? So one of the things that I'll utilize on this report is based on Milliman studies. We had a dip down in costs with COVID last year, but winter is coming, and it's coming hard. Like they say in the show, it's going to be the worst winter yet. And so what they're saying is the average cost increase to the employer share is going to be about 12%, and to the member 5%, right? So maybe you're talking about 17% coming in January. Do you want to wait to see that come, or do you want to start now and look at other options, prepare for this? Because it's coming. Here's the report. We already know so much of this year. It's just tailing to come to you. So the claims are being incurred, and they're going to get you at renewal or upcoming. So let's take a look at it now and find some strategies to alleviate that pain, or come up with some way to mitigate that. Maybe ask them, can you take 17% on the chin? Some companies can. Can you take 17%? What happens when it goes up 17%? Let's say you run well, it's good, but let's just say it does happen. Tell me how you're planning on handling that this year.
Is the company really going to absorb the whole thing? Like you've been doing is the company really going to absorb the whole rate increase like you did the last 2-3 years?
Yeah. How good did business go last year with COVID? How was your growth last year? Probably weren't printing money like you were the last 4 or 5 years in business, right? And so here's a way to capture back some of the lost profits from last year. We're going to show you how.
What's the conversation sound like, HR, when you have to go to your boss and say, here's our rate increase on the health insurance, and I think we should absorb the rate increase? What's the sound like? What is the CFO or whoever your direct report is? What are they going to say to you? You just have a conversation and ask them questions that make them think about things that they need to be thinking about that are at worst emotional, not logical. If this is 20% cheaper, they just they don't work like that most of the time. You have to reach them where their heart is, not their
Yeah,
brain.
it's not as easy as a Geico commercial car insurance sale. It's very simple. We'll cover your car insurance for 15-20% less. Now, people don't realize the limits and stuff in the insurance. That's another story. Understand the policies, but they don't really care like they do on healthcare, copays, deductibles, so on and so forth. So networks, there's all these other things. So sell the pain. Yeah, the 5%, 4% to employees is going to be their contribution and their out of pockets, and then the employer subsidy is about 12%. And so sell the pain around that if that's something you got to get in the door with. If you're booking cold calls, look, Mr. Employer, all I want to tell you is right now, the study had just come out, number one actuary in the firm, and I'm happy to send it to you, that the increase you should expect on average to your employees and you is a total of 17%. We want to come out and show you strategies on how you can mitigate that or not pay that increase, or show you what our clients are doing so they
Before the
don't have
rush.
that increase. In fact, the only reason last year there was a drop in cost of 6.7% because of the presence of self-funded employers. Read the report. And so just another way to have that conversation. We're always just here trying to give you guys ideas, tidbits. Go back, take notes, record it, spin it your way, reword it way you're comfortable, write it out, and keep working on your sales pitch, right? I'm doing a webinar on July 6th. I'll spend another 20 hours redoing the webinar that I've already done to make it better, or try a different angle or a different pitch or different slides, or different stories, different visuals. Always getting better, always trying to get better in a presentation. Craig, any final thoughts here?
Well, I mean, it's a simple conversation in the sense that you can ask any HR person. Look, we all know that COVID closed down the country for a year. So who was having elective surgeries last year? No one. Who was going to the doctor? No one. Do you suspect that there might be a lot of pent up demand in 2021? Have you been to a doctor's office recently? Yeah, so there's tons of demand that's pent up. Hospitals lost a lot of money. Now the government subsidized them, but if you do any kind of research, you'll see that their operating losses without government subsidies were almost entirely in the negative. And then after government subsidies, some made money, some didn't. Point being, what do you suppose the likelihood is that they're all going to raise their prices next year, 2022? And when they raise their prices, what does that impact? Well, it impacts the rates that insurance companies charge employers, which impacts the contributions that you decide to pass on to your employees. And so when you start to connect the dots, you can see winter is coming. And so the question that I have for you is, how are you going to deal with a 14 to 20% rate increase? Let's explore that. And so now you have a very simple conversation where hopefully you can get into some of the meat and potatoes of what really frustrates that person, and why, when you get them to tell you what are the consequences of that, what are the things they can't do, how long can they survive not getting those things, does the dollar amount bother them, does the impact on the employees bother them, does their job security bother them, and then tie it all together and connect it to what it is that you do. And now you'll have an increased likelihood that they'll want to work with you, not because of your features and benefits, but because you really understand what makes them tick. You're muted.
I said, well said, Craig. I think we'll end it there. Thanks for watching, guys. Next week, winter is coming. Be prepared. We're going to cover it. If you don't feel the fourth quarter coming, you're asleep at the wheel, because I feel it, and I feel it coming hard. It's going to be a fun one, because last
you lose
year,
2 cases, it's too late.
Yeah, last year was tough. It was a tough year, guys. Time to make it up, man. Get after it. Winter is coming. Heads Up Advisors. See you next week, guys. Same place, same time. Enjoy the weekend. Have a little fun, because winter is coming.
Father's Day. Enjoy.